Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and people of all ages, thank you for tuning in and listening to our Chicagoland Czech American Community Podcast. This is the CCACC coming to you live from Berwyn. Special thanks to the Czech Foreign Ministry and our Czech Chicago Consulate, Jaroslav Kuntarek. Thank you very much for all your support. Guys, I'd like to say hello to all of our listeners out there in Chicagoland and the U.S. A special hello to our foreign listeners, Czech Republic, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, Cyprus, India, Sweden, Egypt, South Africa, and Poland. In one breath again. Guys, sitting in here co-hosting with me, the one and only, the beautiful Radka Kultalkova.
Hello, dobrý den.
And sitting in the big chair, controlling the dials, the Chlupatipan, Johnny BB Fran.
Hello, everybody.
Guys, we have a jam-packed show again. We have really special guests today. Radka, would you like to do our introductions?
Absolutely. So when Teddy told me who's coming today, I was like, well, we do not really have enough space here in today's bunker of a studio here for the thrones, but we do have these teeny tiny chairs, but we are still really proud and happy to welcome the Chicagoland Sokol or royalty, the Wilts. So we have Mr. Adam Wilt and Mrs. Vera Wilt, and all of you that know them, you know who's here. And you guys are in for a treat. And Teddy is pushing the button of an applause, and he's like smacking the phone.
I'm doing my best here, guys. And
so you guys are welcome.
IT problems and still nothing. Here we go. Welcome to our high-class entertainment, guys. But here we'll do it the old-fashioned way. Yeah. Guys, thank you very much for coming and making time for us. I know we've been working on this, trying to get you guys in here. You guys are a really special family here. And we bring a lot of people on here, and I always give compliments. But you guys have a special staple in the community, and you guys constantly expand with what you guys are doing. But since your mother is here, I'd like to, and since we're talking about royalty, and before we get into the whole Sokol stuff, but we are sitting with the first queen of the Hobie Days. So please talk about what Hobie Day is real quick, and then how you became involved.
So, excuse me, I'm not in my best voice today, but the Hobie Day Festival began with the business people of the community. The Cermak Road Business Association was the first group that started it, and there were names like Lillian Barr, Hermina Ondrush, lots of Czech people who ran the businesses in Cicero and Berwyn back in the day. And they said, there's all these potato festivals and whatever. We should have a Hobie festival. And much of it was to promote the businesses. They had things like sidewalk sales and all that. But they got started with all kinds of activities and with a parade. Okay. And they thought, well, every festival needs to have a queen. And so in those early days, it was really a popularity contest. People voted within all those businesses. There were pictures of all the contestants, and you had to put in your name, address, and phone number on your ballot, but you could vote multiple times because they encouraged you to go to all the stores, right? Uh-huh. So there was no registry. You were a registered voter. So let's just say I was active in a lot of Czech groups at the time, so all my friends came out and voted for me.
That's good.
And Mrs. Ondrush, who happened to be my boss, I was a part-time employee of hers, she also took a stack of the ballots to Moravský den because she was always very generous there. She stood on the stage as she was presenting the check. She said, and our Vierushka is running for Hobie Queen, so please vote for her. So my votes had, I had voters from Toronto, from St. Louis, from Cleveland, from all over the country. So I was later teased. I became involved in my maturity then with the business association. And I ran into some of the people there who had run that first festival. And they said, we didn't even count the votes your year. We just weighed them. So there might have been a little ballot box stuffing, and I won't say it was vote tampering because I think people really voted for me, but that was my claim to fame.
The big thing is that you were well known because of what you've done for the community and all the clubs that you belong to, and
you're also awesome.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Well, back then, at the ripe old age of 18, I was known through mostly the folk dancing groups. So,
was there like a talent contest? Did you like who could?
Not that time. No? Honestly, it was all done on these votes, and then the coronation was actually a fashion show because back in those days, there were lots of ladies' fashion stores. Okay. DeMars and Two Sisters and all those kinds of stores. And so it was a fashion show and then a coronation. So they had, I think there were 10 or 12 of us. They had us all lined up and just announced the winner, And that they made the mistake that year. They started with the parade. So we were all in the parade with our sponsoring organizations because somebody had to sponsor you. And then the coronation was the final thing. And then I didn't hear from them for a year.
Really?
Well, because they didn't know what to do with a queen. They'd never done this, right? Honestly, so about a month before the next festival, I get this awkward call from them. And all year I've been thinking about what could they be doing with a Hobie queen. They called me and said, could you possibly come with us to be on the Jack Eigen radio show to promote the festival? And tell them what a Hobie queen does. And I thought, well, I'll have to make something up.
She's waiting for a phone call. That's what it is.
And I did. And honestly, I went there and he asked me, and I just started making stuff up. I really did.
You guys hear it here.
See, that's why she was the queen.
I said, basically, the queen is the youth ambassador for the community. They're taking notes. They're jotting this down. I said, when the organization has their annual golf outing, she's there to greet people and sell raffle tickets. And, I'm just making stuff up. So they were so grateful that I pulled their butts out of the fire that then the following year after my successor, who was a Sokolka too, that was Patty Gilbert, after she was crowned, she was going to school, and a couple of times they wanted her to attend something and she couldn't make it. So God bless, they called me out. So they said, you girls kind of look alike. Grab your crown and your sash and nobody will know. So
absolutely love it.
That sounds like a Czech event.
Yeah.
Adam, I know you're not a Hobie queen, but I know you were heavily involved in Sokol, but you partake in the Hobie Days events and.
Well, and I was born on a Hobie weekend, which is rare, of course. And, of course, my mom was the most popular bachelorette in Berwyn and Cicero at the time. So people have known who I was through that. I remember early on at the Hobie pageants, I actually held the cards that they would draw the baskets for the questions. And so they called me the Hobie Prince at the time. I was pretty young.
Well,
so it is the royalty.
But that's about as close as I got to the crown.
Wow, look at that. I'm pretty...
he was born on a Friday night, and it was the coronation banquet of the Queen that year. And so I called, I don't know if it was at the Wishing Well or wherever, I called there from the hospital to say, a prince is born, and so they announced it there.
That's amazing.
I never knew these stories, and I've known you guys for a very long time.
Can I just jump in to this for the people that may never heard of Hobie Festival? Let's just say, tell us.
Well, Hobie is the plural word for mushrooms in Czech, and back in 1970, when a lot of this was getting going, late 60s and early 70s, a lot of things were, the psychedelic mushroom. It was the go-go era.
Gotcha.
So all these colorful mushrooms, and so that that's kind of what drew it. But everybody could, once you showed a picture of a mushroom, they knew what it was. But after I was crowned, I was in college at the time, and I walked into the student union, and people stood up and either saluted the hobo queen, or they thought it was Hobie, like a Hobie cat sailboat. They didn't know what to make of me. But mushrooms were a big deal in my family anyway.
Or they asked you for a good deal on the psychedelics. So the festival took place on Cermak Avenue, right?
Correct.
Right,
From
Cermak.
Cicero to Berwyn.
That's where I came into it like
Right.
tons of years later.
Yeah.
When I met this crazy.
And matter of fact, all of us, we're part of Hopi Day.
Sure.
Festivals.
But it used to be
having
much
Czech-
bigger, correct? Like, it used to be a
Absolutely.
big, huge thing, right?
Sure. All the Czech organizations were represented. We had all the groups in their kroje, in the folk costumes. We had bands, Czech bands on floats for the music and all. You wouldn't recognize the Hobie Festival now from what it was then.
But it was also because there were many more Czech businesses, right? And Czech people
Absolutely.
actually living in
Absolutely,
Berwyn physically, correct?
Yes, this was at a time when literally in every block you had probably a Czech bakery, possibly a Czech butcher shop, a Czech funeral home. I mean, and then multiple. Yeah. I mean, there was a whole. You have to understand, this community was so Czech that there was a Czechoslovak Savings and Loan League and a Bohemian Funeral Home Association.
Yes.
So,
That's amazing.
I mean, they ran every kind of business.
Now,
not to mention the bank.
we're going to stay on the subject of Hobie mushrooms for all of our listeners. Now, if you're Czech, except for Johnny, because Johnny doesn't like mushrooms, even though I keep cooking them for him, he doesn't eat them.
Maybe not this kind.
But your family's also like really known with the mushroom with your brother and what he's done.
Sure.
And talk a little bit about them. And Adam, I'm gonna hit you up with if you ever go mushroom hunting. But let your mom dive into this one, and then.
Yeah.
Well, so you have to understand, my mother and 3 siblings actually left Czechoslovakia under the pretense of mushroom hunting.
No way.
They went across the border with baskets over their arms and layers of clothing. Right. Now, my youngest brother, the closest one to me, was about 7 years old. They didn't tell him what was going on. The 2 older ones were in their early teens, so they knew what was going on. But they kept telling him, they were good Czechs, so they kept filling up the basket. And my mother said, well, dump those out. There's better ones up ahead. And my brother Peter lives in New Mexico, and he has a website, Yandachek Clan or yandachek.com, something like that. I encourage you to look at that because he tells the story from the 7-year-old's perspective and how bizarre the whole thing was. But that's how they escaped.
What year was this?
We can link this to the show,
48.
right? We can put the link to the website to the show for you guys to kind of explore.
It's yandachek.com.
Yeah, yandachek.com.
What can you spell it though?
JANDACEK. JAND as in David, ACEK.
Thank you.
Sure. And so, you'll see some of that history. My father was already in the United States at the time, so that's why my mother was escaping with 3 children. My dad was a journalist in Prague, and he was warned. He was a very pro-West, pro-American journalist, and he spoke with Beneš the day before the putsch, so he knew exactly, why it was happening, and he actually came here as a witness before the United Nations with diplomatic immunity.
Wow.
And then so he was already out, and for those following months, he left like March 2nd, right after the February putsch, and my mother and the kids didn't leave until September 14th. Nobody wanted to help 4 people across at once. They wanted to split the group up, and she wouldn't have it. So anyway, so my mom and the kids then wound up, they did get across to Germany. They wound up in the refugee camp system, and then through a series of horrible situations, they wound up not coming to the United States until Christmas of 1950.
Wow.
My dad was here in Chicago, in Cicero, all that time, waiting for them. And so then, well, I guess if it weren't for the communists, I wouldn't be here today because I'm the product of their reunion.
Oh.
So,
We are grateful.
so that played a prominent part in our lives. So my father was always an avid mushroom hunter, would go out at the crack of dawn or before dawn whenever he could. My parents, once they came here, got established a little bit, but they needed to, make a living. They had to start all over with clothes on their backs. So they bought a delicatessen in Lyons, just the business. And then a few years later were approached by the owner of the building. Would they take over the tavern on the corner next door as well? So they were busy. They worked 7 days a week. So once that happened, but my dad would literally leave in the dark to run out to the woods somewhere far from town and get back before the stores opened. So my father always used to get like he would fill the back of a station wagon so quickly. I can't tell you. He was just a phenomenal mushroom hunter. And when he was returning from one of those trips, unfortunately, he had an elderly gentleman with him who, came as a companion and liked to mushroom hunt. When they were coming back, my father suddenly collapsed at the wheel, and the gentleman had the presence of mind to turn off the engine. This was before everything locked up,
Sure.
The old cars, and pulled over to the side. My dad passed away instantly. He had a blood clot to the heart, a coronary thrombosis. So, but just before he collapsed, he was saying to his friend, "Oh, when I get back, I'm going to call the Cicero Life. They're going to come out and take a picture," because there was a 30 or 31 pound cottage in the back.
Oh my gosh!
No way!
And he used to get his picture taken every year with the catch of the season.
Yeah.
So I mean, he couldn't have died under more happy circumstances. He was ecstatic, and he died. So. But my brother Tony, all the siblings have been mushroom hunters, but Tony took it to a next level and a scientific level. So he really studied. He learned all the Latin names for everything. He really approached it. He would research when he would pick something. So he was a real expert, and he was actually on call with several of the local hospitals so that if anybody came in and it was suspected mushroom poisoning, if they had the mushroom, he liked to say he could tell you if you were going to die or if you just wished you died because you felt so sick.
You guys have to understand this. For people that are not Czech, a lot of times in U.S. I meet people and I ask them, "Do you go mushroom hunting?" Like I have a friend in Minnesota or Colorado, and I'm like, "Do you go mushroom hunting?" And they're like, "What? Are you nuts?" You have to understand that mushroom hunting is like a national sport in Czech Republic. It's very serious.
Mm-hmm.
You do not.
You
do not share the spot with anyone. No. And just before the episode, we were talking with Teddy, and that anyone includes your family. So my dad just passed this summer, and my mom was like, "Say goodbye to your dried mushrooms," because nobody knows where he used to go.
Right.
And they're very proud of that, right? Mm-hmm. They have their things, they have their spot, and it's like
fishermen here.
Yes.
It's just like fishermen. You don't tell your secret spot.
Yeah. Well, that's 100% true. I recently pulled Miss Scala aside, and I said, I'm like, your husband and you guys were like two peas in a pod. And I'm like, is there any way, just tell me one spot. And she looked at me and she goes, "Can you believe he never once told me?"
Oh, yeah.
Which then I started asking other Suckle senior members, and they're like, nobody. It
goes to your grave.
It really does.
Absolutely.
I'm like, man, these guys really kept that secret.
It's like, let the generation of mushroom hunters earn their stripes.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's one of the big things is that I know for a fact when I go to Czech Republic, and especially in the mushroom time hunting, or whenever I always ask my family, let's go hunting. They actually bought me a knife. They actually have special knives.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And who would ever thought? Like, hey.
Oh, because you never pull it up by the little roots. Oh no.
No, they have a special mushroom knife that has a mushroom painted on it, and with the little little hair on it to brush off the dirt and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course. Like, how else would you mushroom hunt?
Yeah,
right.
In some way, it's kind of funny. Here, people consider, especially at the firehouse, they all consider me a Czech, and then in Czech Republic, everybody considers me an American.
Right.
So it's like what?
Mm-hmm.
But so it's amazing. Your family has such history, and I'm so honored, honest to God, guys, to have these stories and to hear these stories is unbelievable. To get this out to, there's no other way to other than just sitting back and listening to this, because unless you're at a tavern or at a Suckle event and you grab these people by their ear and say, "Hey, I want to hear this," so I'm really absolutely so happy that you guys are here. So now that we got on the whole mushroom thing, and now we did the Hobie Day, and now I want to kind of ask you, how did you? I know you're in search. We're Czech, but what organizations and what clubs did you belong to, and how did that kind of?
So, when I was growing up, my parents were very involved in the Czech Catholic organizations, and with what was the Exulanti, the exiles, and those Czech Catholic exiles established a Czech school at Blessed Agnes Parish. Now it's St. Agnes over in Little Village, what's now Little Village. Then it was Česká California, of course, when I was going there. But when my classmates were home on Saturdays watching cartoons, I started the day bright and early with Czech school. I went from, I don't know if we started at 8 or 8:30. We went past noon. We'd bringing our lunch till like 1 o'clock. There was a whole group of us that were all the children of refugees. It was a very high class Czech school in terms of our learning curve because we all spoke Czech at home.
Sure.
And so we were learning, besides learning to read and write, we also had history, we had a religion class, we had geography. Excuse me. So all of that was part of my Saturday. And then I would be dropped off. We would carpool for those who lived in Cicero. And I would be dropped off at Moravský dům, a little farther west on 26th Street, where I would wait for Millie Liška. I know you recently had Marina Liška, her daughter, on. I would wait for Millie to show up. And then with the youngest ones, I would be her helper. I would be the one dragging kids around while she would introduce it. And then I would dance with like the next level group. We had a little division of age groups. They weren't separate groups, but different circles.
So was that before UMS? Was it after?
So that was UMS.
That was
UMS.
United. Okay.
That was United Moravian Societies. That was well before the split.
Before the split, okay.
So that was when everything was still there. When Moravský den was at Pilsen Park, and the parade would go down 26th Street from Moravský dům all the way to Pilsen Park.
Oh.
And those were wonderful times. They would have horses. You had to watch where you stepped if you were walking in the parade because of that. It was, I mean, the older guys who, if they weren't on the street doing a vedbunk, they were riding high in their kroj on a horse. It looked like Jízda Králu, the festival in the Czech Republic. So those were great times. But I would then spend the rest of the time, and as Millie taught all the groups, and there were some, as they got older, then they already lived in like Berwyn or maybe they were already in North Riverside, but they would bring me home then at the end of the day. So I'd leave the house at 8 in the morning, and I wouldn't get home until probably 4 in the afternoon. Those were my Saturdays. And my parents were more than happy to have me involved in that because they knew where I was,
sure.
As opposed to them being in the store. I was like the original latchkey child.
Now, I could see all that influence that your mom had, how it rolled into you. Now, you have taken on some big roles here, and you've done many great. You've done a lot of big things. Let's give the mic to you for a split second. Tell us how your mom inspired. I mean, your mom can inspire anybody, I got to say. And it's wonderful to have. I'm going to talk about my mom. I love that woman to death because she taught me so many things, and God bless you that you have such a great mom too. How did this all impact your life?
So I grew up kind of, I feel like, not under a microscope, but definitely like more featured in publications like the CSA Journal than most young children. Again, having a mother who was at the time, vice president of CSA Fraternal Life, and then the president. And so like that publication was probably 20,000 households going to at that time. So really had, it always was a little bit on my best behavior, at least I tried. Not always successful with that, but overall pretty good. But I really got to know the Czech community through CSA, Fraternal Life, and Sokol. Sokol was really a big part of my life since the time I was just before I was 3 years old. Yeah, was my first Sokol class. Barb Crucera at the old Piper School in Berwyn was where we had classes before.
And which Sokol was this?
Else. This was Sokol Slavsky at the time.
Slavsky. Oh my gosh, Tabor's big nemesis, guys.
Yeah, Tabor's nemesis from years ago. Blast from the past with Slavsky, but no. Sokol Slavsky, the old Olympic building in Berwyn and Cicero, is The original Slavsky building became a CSA building, was actually the place where my parents had their wedding reception.
Wow.
I've never been in the building,
No,
sadly.
get out.
No way.
It's been pretty much closed my entire life,
It is such a shame.
and condemned for a pretty long time. It seems like now.
There'll be another special. We'll talk about the.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah, I'd love to see it at some point, but
No, you
before it's too
It's
late. But
heartbreaking right now.
Yeah, it is.
yeah, but yeah. So I've been involved with Sokol since childhood. CSA was also actually probably a bigger influence in me. Went to CSA get-togethers, was very involved. The district council in the area used to have big events. CSA used to have concerts in the parking lot. Always had a Flag Day ceremony that we were at. Actually, I never would have thought I now live about 100 yards from where the CSA building was, which is now the Berwyn Library.
Let me stop you real quick. Can
Yeah.
you the CSA acronym that you're talking about?
CSA originally stood for Czechoslovak Society of America.
Okay.
And is a fraternal benefit society. And so a lot of Czechs, when they came to the U.S., really had to depend on one another. And so it was CSPS at the time and formed as an organization to really where people pooled their resources to help loved ones when they passed and help their family members make sure that they could continue on. This is before Social Security, before benefits, before most people had retirement. So a sudden death in the family could be devastating.
Sure.
But
No.
for so much of the world, just like Sokol's have been as well, both of those organizations really served as the community centers in the places that they were. And so really provided an opportunity to not just have a sense of like fitness or social activity, but really family. And now you see it with park districts, you see a lot of corporate organizations that do it, but really like fraternal organizations like Sokol and CSA were really kind of the lifeblood of the communities. Which
Do you
they
want
were
to
in.
give? We're going to jump on Sokol here in a little
Yeah.
bit, but do you want to give CSA a shout out for the website?
Sure. CSAlife.org is the website for CSA. And again, still operating, the oldest operating fraternal benefit society in the United States. In 1854 was founded. So just before the Sokol movement started.
Nope,
We'll
I don't
talk
think that's
about that later.
possible.
Yeah, but a long time and operates in out of Lombard, Illinois. But we have lodges actually. My mom and I are both members of two of the local Chicago area lodges R.T. Crane Jr. and Sinelli. My dad's side, you mentioned my mom, but my dad, he had a lot of influence in me as well. And actually his mother was the founding president of the lodge that we're still in, Lodge Crane.
Wow.
So, a lot of influence from both sides. And so my mom really, it started with a lot of the UMS and things like that, but my dad also had a lot of the CSA background, which my mom came into probably a little bit later than my dad, but she also did forget her beauty pageant days weren't just limited to being a Hobie Queen. She was a Miss CSA as well.
Oh,
Woohoo! Pani Viera!
that.
I like this part.
Well, and she was the winner the one time they had a swimsuit competition, I believe. So
Oi.
yeah, good for her. So if she undersells
My
why
worst nightmare.
if she undersells why she won the Hobie pageant, she has no excuses with Miss CSA. She's been awesome, but actually CSA in that regard, my sister Alex is actually also Miss CSA. So that was the first ever mother-daughter Miss CSA.
We got
combination
history
too.
all
So-
over.
That's
Pretty cool.
It's
amazing.
unbelievable.
And for you guys listening, just go back if you want to know more about CSA too. Go to our Dropcast episode, and Mike Dropka goes in depth into the CSA and many details as well. And of course, we will link all the important links in the bios and the show notes and all the things for you guys to learn about, because it really is a great organization to at least learn about. And if there's something that you are thinking about supporting, as always, you can.
was a foundation for a lot of the Czech community in the country. A lot of that community broke off. Actually, CSPS ended up going and splitting into a few organizations. One in Texas, SBJST, which is still very prominent down there. And Western Fraternal Life, that was located out of Cedar Rapids, now has moved, I believe, to Wisconsin in a merger. But Yeah, so exciting stuff, and it's amazing just the way that the Czechs really established roots in so many communities around the country and really took ownership in making their communities better through all of these organizations.
Wow, that's amazing. I really, guys, I know you guys for a long time, but just hearing it all over again is amazing. Mr. President, and you guys are going to understand why we're going to take a break right now, and while I'm rolling into this, we have a special song for you while we take this break. So, guys, sit back and enjoy.
And before we go to the break, I just want to thank everybody who is listening to our podcast, to all of our fans, all of the people that support it, and thank you for giving us a rating, 5 stars, and for a chance to be a shout-out fan. Please leave a comment and let us know how you like this show, because with the comment and the rating, we can always reach out more people and do more service to the community and spread the word farther. So thank you so much for listening to us and for the ratings.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that František Moch songs from our American Sokol marches. Actually, those are just Sokol marches, not American Sokol marches. But, guys, I actually could listen to those things all day. But, Mr. President, you're the one that actually requested to make sure that
I did, yes. I couldn't come on this show without making sure that there's some Sokol marches representing all of the tradition of our organization.
Why I love you even more. Why I love you. Now, so real quick, we're going to jump on you real quick about the American Sokol. But you actually made history. I'm very proud of you. You are the youngest American Sokol president of a national organization. And how old is this national organization?
We're 157 years old.
There you go. You don't even have you don't even have businesses that make 57 years.
True.
Sure.
And here you have an organization 157 years. So I'm going to give my hats off to you, because it's a lot of work, guys. Everybody that's in this room, we don't get paid for. Close your eyes, and that's what we get. That's what for monetary. We get things in. We get great family and friends. Honest to God, it's you when you see someone. Hugs, kisses, drinks, it's the whole 9 yards. But we do this for the passion. We do this to help our culture, brothers and sisters. It's really, truly a calling. So back to you and this major accomplishment. So please, what was your big push and your desire to do all this?
Wow. I have to say, it was never really something I aspired to. I spent most of my childhood fighting my dad of, do I have to go to Sokol every time?
We all went through that.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
And my dad told me at the time, and he told me for years, he goes, you have to be in Sokol through at least 1 year of juniors. After that, it's your choice. Got to juniors and fell in love with it. I've not built in any way like a gymnast. Definitely not my forte, although pommel horse, I could hold my own a little bit for a while. With younger hips and shoulders, but
hold on, you're one hell of a jumper though. Your calves are about the size of my torso.
They're bigger than that. No,
I was wondering who's gonna go with this one.
This guy jumps like
You never know.
to like 30 feet and jumps like 10 feet.
And I was a high jumper for a bit in high school too. So and then they stopped letting me do that because I was they said I was too good at shot put, but I think they also thought there's no way this is going to work out. Too much weight going up and down. So, and I've always been a big guy, but I found Sokol to be family, and that's really what it was. It was where my friend groups were from. It was where I first really got the opportunity, and as a younger person, to be part of something bigger than myself. My whole family has always been committed to organizations and causes, and that's really where it started for me. Sometimes was a bit of a brat. I felt bad. But my juniors instructor Tom Pager, like he pushed me a lot, and sometimes I pushed right back. And
I understand that one.
Yeah, we still have that love-hate relationship sometimes, but no, all love for the people who've influenced me. But I really got to say, I think that's what really defines Sokol for me, is that there was so much more to it than just fitness, than just social. There was a community there, and that's one of the things I think really keeps our unit strong. We're a couple 100 yards away from Sokol Tabor right now, which my brother-in-law, he's a member there. Teddy, yeah. John, and John is actually the cousin of my brother-in-law, Kenny. So he's going to want me to call him Ken, but he's Kenny.
Yeah, it's always Kenny.
It's always going to be
Kenny, always Kenny.
There it is. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, his dad's Ken. So, but anyway, we're close to a Sokol Hall, and it's just a sense of community. The way that you feel when you get to see the people from Sokol, it's like you're seeing relatives. I didn't have a lot of grandparents growing up. But I had a lot of surrogate grandparents because there were always people looking out for me. I learned respect. I learned a value system, and that's, I think, the other part with Sokol is it's not just a sound. It's a sound mind through a sound body, and the sound mind part, I think, is so overlooked these days, and that's really the part where the values that Sokol instills in its members. So many Sokols that you see that are still active today. And engage in the organization, even the younger ones. They jump to those leadership opportunities. For me,
100%.
Yeah, and for me, I got really involved in my unit, and actually, it was after I went. Brother Paul LeBlanc, who you had on the show a couple weeks ago, he actually was the one at our annual meeting the one year. I was dressed in my dress uniform because that's how you dress for the annual meeting. He nominated me. He said, "You look good in that uniform. Like." You're a good leader. You should go to the convention. 2010 convention for American Sokol changed my life. I went there and I was like, wow, I fit in. I get this. I like bylaws. I like all those things. And so years later, had the opportunity, and actually later that year, I ended up running for president of my unit, and was unopposed. It was weird because I haven't been opposed too often in elections within Sokol or in most things, but it's been a labor of love. I really love the organization. I love the fact that we have so many units. Sokol as an organization, we have, I believe more physical properties around the country than any Czech organization there is out there. And that's a really cool thing. That's something that needs to be treasured, and we need to really show those communities who we are, and I'm excited to be part of that. We actually started earlier this year, or just a little while ago, and going into next year, we're doing some town hall meetings just that are open to the public. We're putting them on social media and just giving our units the chance to showcase all the great things they're doing.
That's
and I think
beautiful.
that's so often organizationally we look at the American Sokol as this big entity. The American Sokol is a collection of a lot of great local community organizations. We're the conduit for it, and I love it.
That's beautiful.
I would like to ask. So Teddy has called you Mr. President. So what is your official title that you actually hold? I don't believe that we actually said that.
I'm the president of the American Sokol Organization,
of
which
the entire
technically American Sokol, and if you want to go
United States.
Yes, of the United States. So we have 31 units across the country.
Wow.
And so we have a very strong presence in the Chicago area. But I know when you did your listing of all the states, we probably are in all of the states that you have listeners in. I think this is a great forum for Sokol members to hear about the Czech community around the country. But we have a lot of presence in Texas, a lot in the Midwest, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, even East, out Ohio, Michigan, New York, New Jersey, Baltimore, D.C., and even out west, we have a couple of units in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. So
one of the things
going on.
One of the things, especially for Sokol Spirit. I mean, I was going to call it Brookfield. My apologies, but Sokol Tabor. I mean, it's not just, even though we say Czech, it's a community building. I mean, we have every nationality that's underneath the sun. That we really truly cater to the community, but we still hold on to our roots, which I'm very proud of. And once again, I commend you on this. But for any of our listeners,
no small task.
No.
Sure.
So for any of our listeners here, guys, everybody was like, "Well, how do I become a Sokol? What do they have to, I know the answer.
What does
but
it involve?
Do I have to bite a chicken's head off? Or what's that?
No.
So how do I become
chicken heads or anything?
No, nothing. It's spanking machine.
So it's easy. You reach out to your local organization. You can go to american-sokol.org.
There'll be a link.
Can you do
we'll
that?
have that link.
Spell it out for us, please.
American-Sokol. It's SOKOL.org. And that has a finder in there where you can find the unit that's closest to you. We have members, though, who are part of units. I know there's a lot of snowbirds out there, so they're not always in one place. Some members who are in multiple units as well, a lot of dual members, but people who really just want to get involved locally. We have a lot of different programs. Fitness is really the core of our organization. We have fitness programs from ages 3 to 93, we say, but I've seen people older than that in part of our programs. We also have a lot of new programs that are taking place, and a lot of those really reflect the communities that we're in. And I think that's really important to us too, as so many people, even Sokol Spirit, my own unit, is our president. She's Italian, but she loves the Czech culture. She's married to a Czech man, and she loves all that we're doing. And so many of our units have leaders that appreciate our culture and the Czech culture, but we can really show that this organization isn't just about the culture of being Czech, but the values of being Czech. And that I think is something that resonates. I always think back to my mom telling me lessons of when I was young just about Prague. Prague was the center of intelligence and of enlightenment within Europe. And that's really what the Czech community does, is really fosters that value system, that leadership, that culture, and beyond the culture, but the values behind it: democracy, freedom, free thinking. And that's one of the things I love about Sokol. We have so many things going on. We have educational, cultural programs at our Sokols. A lot of them have Czech classes that are still going. We have a lot of cultural programming.
Social programs.
It's not like one size fits all. It's more like, how does Sokol fit into the community and kind of adjust it. But you guys, I hope that you can see Adam's face on the camera, or you actually hear the passion in his voice. Like, it makes my heart sink sitting here and actually knowing that this organization is in hands of somebody so passionate. Like, I see his mom, like, almost crying, looking at him so proudly. I can see her here. Like, I do. I see that.
Well, and I get my passion from my parents. Like, there's no doubt about it.
You guys, you cannot fake this.
Yes.
You cannot buy this. You cannot pretend this. It has to be there. And when it's there, that's when the things start rolling and things start changing. And it really does seem to me Teddy's totally taking a selfie right in the middle of the
Oh,
show.
I'm doing a
No
video.
problem.
Just gotta get some videos here.
You guys, seriously, right? It feels to me throughout these shows that we are having here with the Sokols like a new wave, right? Like a new life is being born. Maybe it's the timing. Maybe we've been through a lot. You guys been through a lot, even just past few years. But you were talking about mental fitness and about all these things. And I think that many people got very lonely real fast when they got isolated. Yeah. And coming out of that isolation and then thinking, well, okay, now everything is open again, but where do I go? Maybe I don't belong anywhere, right? Maybe I don't have a home to go to. Maybe I don't have a friend to talk to. Maybe I don't have a passion. I don't have a hobby. I don't have a crazy volleyball at whatever nights you guys have it, right?
Yeah, Friday nights. We still do it in the
Oh,
fall.
seriously, right? You guys know I've been around a while. So that really, the importance of this is growing. It's not like it's something that is dying. It's really like rebirthing.
Yes.
To me, that's how.
Well,
that's what it seems to
Sokol,
me. So.
when I think of Sokol, I think family, I think leadership, I think strength, and I think community. Those are the things that I've seen so many leaders come from Sokol. Some kind of comical part is that if you ever dance with a Sokol woman, she tries to lead. And it's like, no, I'm sorry. No.
I don't think it's unique to Sokol women. It's all Czech women.
And I have to say, I love the fact that, like, our organization, you mentioned the leaders, and there's a lot of young people who are passionate about the organization. I'm so humbled still to this day that the organization has entrusted me to help lead it moving forward. But also on the flip side, like you're talking about our board, we have a board of 14 members, and 11 of them are women. We have some amazingly strong, powerful women within our organization. My mom has been an inspiration for me. My wife always jokes that I'm more of a feminist than she is, but it's because I've seen just how strong the women in this organization have been, and just in the Czech community. They're the ones who keep us going, and it's amazing just to see how many people are passionate about their organization. Getting back together, and you mentioned that's a key part, and it's hard because it became really nice not doing anything for a little while. Everybody got a nice little reprieve, little break, but it's time to come back, and that's one of the things I love is with Sokol, you're coming back to family. We're doing things a little different. Actually, we had a conference recently with the Sokol, the development conference, and when one of the things I asked is, who here used Zoom before COVID? I think we had about 3 people raise their hand. And I said, who uses it now? And everyone did. It changed the way we do things and changed the way we think. And I think so often, like, we're all Czech bohemian. We get very, like, set in, we're set in our ways and that's it. We're willing to change. We want to change. We just want the right change, and we want change that's going to be inclusive of the values we have. And I think that's the important thing with the Sokol is we share so many of the values, even within the organization. There's some politics sometimes, but overall we share so many values, and that's the part I think so often we think back to the old Czech community, all these groups factioning off, and I think we're at a point where these organizations are coming together more. And I love that I've been part of the Czechoslovak American Congress for years, and been the vice president for at least the last few years, probably a little bit more than that. And just like the CCACC, there's these organizations that are serving as conduits to help entities do more. And it's amazing because people want to be involved. People want to come together, and I think that's a really cool opportunity for the Czech community, and I love that Sokol's been such a part of that, especially with COVID and like people coming back. People value human connection, and that's where you get it. And Sokol, without a doubt, some of the best connections I've made with people in my life are through that organization.
So what I'm hearing is Polashek is giving me the funky eye over the microphone right there.
I just wanted to hear what you're going to say.
And he's like, where's she going? But so it seems like there may be a space for people to come and maybe say, I would love to be a part of this, and I would like to bring this idea to the table. Is that correct? It seems to me like
absolutely.
This may be a time to innovate, and it may be time to maybe put new ideas with the older ideas and maybe say, hey, this is how it used to be. Now it's 2022, maybe I am good at this, I am good at that, I would love my children to be involved with this, and I can collaborate, I can bring this to the table. Can I still be heard, or is it just the people with the old families and the ties? Can anybody come in and help?
Yes, absolutely. And anybody who wants to become a member of Sokol can. It's not a hard process. No real initiation or anything other than really swearing to uphold our bylaws and really like adhere to the spirit of our organization and our country. That's the other part. Like we're an American organization, and I know so many of us, the Czech roots and those values that I was talking about earlier, that's really the core of where we're at. But as an organization, we have that ability to innovate, and we're doing it in so many ways. And I gotta say, like, I think COVID kind of kicked us all in the butt a little bit of, hey, it's time to do some new things.
But sometimes it takes a crisis, I think, for people to regenerate and to realize that there's other ways of doing things.
Sure.
You know, people resist change, but you know, we all learn to operate differently, and it's been valuable to us.
Well, one of the things that I commend you on is that you have a positive outlook on things, and you want to bring the people together. And guys, I'm sure this is across the U.S. Every nationality groups, community groups, all have different kind of politics in it, and it's difficult because it's my way. We've been doing this for the last 70 years, whatever. It's going to be has to be like this way. So it's difficult to navigate those waters, and to go in there and say, look, we're going to respect everybody, but we still have to move forward. We want this organization to last another 157 years. And that's why, people, like Sokol Tabor, when they built Sokol Tabor here, they did that on people's mortgages on their homes. Took out second mortgages against their homes so they could build this organization, not just for them, but for the future. Yeah. And that's the mentality that every organization and any community leader needs to take on and say, like, look, not only am I going to give it 100%, I'm going to give it 150% because I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing this for my grandkids and my kids. And if you look just at Mrs. Wilt here, look at what you instilled. I mean,
oh my gosh, what have I done?
What have you done?
Well, and I have to say too, like I mentioned too, a lot of growing up, I felt like I had a lot of surrogate grandparents and parents through the organization, and I think the part that's been inspiring to me has been that we have people with such great values. I mentioned Paula Block earlier. Like for me, like the Bapkas, Ellie and Bernie, Mary Beth and John Took. There's so many people, Roy and Elaine and Zitney, like I've lost his Zitney, sorry. And just so many people have encouraged me and encouraged our younger people, and then empowered us. And that's something that's so cool and such a great opportunity within our organization and within Sokol is you get to see people are trusting the new guard, younger people to take charge, but they're not just abandoning and saying good luck. They're staying involved. They're doing all those things. They're coming to events. They're engaged, and they're mentoring us. And I think those values, like it's so important that you pass that down. You talk about to grandkids and everything, and that's how it starts is by you have an organization of people who are so willing to relinquish control, and not just control, but like knowing that everyone having that buy into the organization is what makes it live on, and it's living on because of it, and it's good. I think the future is really bright for the organization. I think Sokol. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up.
So what do you see? That's my question, right? So for me, big letters, like you are painting this picture of this perfect organization all across the United States.
I think Sokol, what I see is I see the opportunity for us to really share our values and those important things of a sound mind and a sound body with our communities, and making sure that people understand that's for everybody. That's a value system. That's not just for the Czech community, but we pay so much respect to that Czech community. We continue those traditions, and those traditions are so great. I can't wait. 2024, we're going to be going to Prague for the Slet.
Oh,
they're already starting to promote it. You're going to start seeing things from the American Sokol this coming year about that. In 2025, we are going to host the first sled in the Chicago area in 20 years. It has been that long since we've had a Sokol
I feel like
sled.
I've been to one here.
Yeah,
I was in my costume
2005
through UMS,
maybe.
and I feel like I sweat my bum.
Probably.
We walked around the thing.
The field.
The
Oh
track, yeah.
dear Lord, it was amazing.
Lots of fun.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
But yeah, we haven't had one in Chicago, in the Chicago area, in 20 years, or will be by the time we have the next one, and we're excited about that.
So good.
Was on the planning committee and was chairing that committee for the 2021 slot when COVID had other ideas, but we're really excited to get those things going. I think those are a couple of really bright things that you're going to see with Sokol moving forward. Also, there's a lot of new programs. There's a lot of new activities going on. Actually, one that I hear about all the time, and my own gym started pickleball.
Pickleball's huge.
So much looking forward to this.
Yeah, pickleball's huge. There's all these other activities like wheel gymnastics. We have at Sokol Spirit. We've had that for years, and all of a sudden there's a little renewed interest. That class sells out. It doesn't always keep people forever, but so many of those people end up joining Wheels, and then they stay for our fitness classes. There's a lot of fun cultural events, social events. I know we can always depend on Sokol Tabor to have really great events locally too. In the Chicago area, you have Sokol Tabor, Sokol Spirit, Sokol Naperville Hirsch, which is for those further west. We also have Sokol Chicagoland. Sokol Town of Lake is in the area as well.
Sokol Stickney, right? We've done events at Sokol Stickney.
Sokol Stickney, Sokol United actually,
Yes.
and they are now in Countryside, have a new facility that they've been
I didn't know
partnering with. Yeah, and we're really excited. They also have a bus, so they're going to have a traveling bus that can do gymnastics in different places. So that's another great opportunity.
The bus doesn't do the gymnastics, but you can do it on the
But
bus.
pretty much, you guys at least give it a Google, okay? Like give it a search, like kind of look it up. They'll link up all the things because they're trying hard, and they have the history to prove it. That these things work, that they have great results, that they bring peoples and families together, like my little Vicky says, peoples. No, she really messed me up. But all these things are great, and just giving it the passion. I see Polashek's teary eye right here. Because if Bobby would be here, she would just totally give me a thing and saying this thing. I told you that. Like, I could have told you that already.
And that's the thing.
But that's what it is. It
It's
makes
such
my
a great
heart,
movement, and it's so Czech to its core. Bohemia is the founding location of it. But 1862, you had this organization founded. Just 3 years later in St. Louis, they started Sokol in America. And it's been a strong program here ever since. Obviously, a lot of communities have changed, but we're still excited to have so much 157 years later, and just the opportunity for our organization to really unite with one another, but also make those connections locally to really create a sense of community that's just so authentic and so close to so many people's hearts and open to so many people.
I'm going to steal the mic real quick and then talk about one of the things that is, part of the Sokol organization is the calisthenics, and so calisthenics, if nobody knows what it is, it's just movement to music, and it's not only just teaches you coordination, but it keeps, no matter how old you are, you could be 4 years old, but you could also be 104, and they have different levels that you could be doing different things, and it builds your core muscles up and your muscle memory. It builds a sound mind through a sound body, and it really develops everything for you. And one of the selfish things that I want to say is that everybody, when I fell and I crushed my body, nobody understood how and why I survived and what I went through. But I always go back to saying I was a Sokol. They never saw all the doctors at Loyola never saw anybody fight like this, and everything that I was taught in Sokol, all the obstacles, all this, you just don't give up. Figure out a way, and it's beautiful. It's really truly to understand when you're doing this calisthenics. I mean, because you might not be a superstar gymnast, you might not be a number one athlete. But when you guys are all on the field and you're all moving together and you guys are there as one family.
It's a teamwork thing too. I mean, no individual stands out. Together, you make beautiful formations and all.
It really, and then especially when you go to Prague, and you do that, it changes your whole view on Sokol. And Brother Paul was the one that forced me many years ago to do this, because I was, at one time, I was so upset because of politics in Sokol. I didn't know what to do, and Brother Paul's like, "You're going to Prague, and you're gonna drill right next to me," and he did.
Street Paul says you do.
And he would yell at me, but it changed, and then you got to meet so many different people from all over the world, most of them from Czech Republic, but all over the world, and you're shaking hands, hugging, drinking, and just drilling, and it was 1 week of hardcore, intense physical fitness and brotherly and sisterly love. It was not like a hippie thing, but it was just it was
a cooperative effort and
unbelievable.
And I love that you say that. I have to jump into this because I see Adam is like going into this. But you guys, if you are like me, I mean, I'm honorary Sokol and I have this membership paid, which is just by there, and by my brother Teddy, and all the things. But I feel, as this goes, it's not we don't take all, but it will click for the right people. That's all there is to it. So come and try it out. Come and see if marching in a formation is for you. Like, you don't know unless you try it. It's not all these crazy things as you may think. There are many levels of everything, right? So unless you know, and Johnny is right there, scratching his beard. He's like, yo, right? So all these guys are such an amazing human beings, volunteering their souls, in every single event. But that's why when I say Teta Viera, it's amazing because it is like an honor. Because when I met her, it was always like all over the place, all inclusive. Like, she's like, I'm not your aunt, right? But she is the nicest person, and for me to call her Teta, right, call her an aunt, it's an honor because she's an awesome. Well,
very few people have seen that.
And you were talking about calisthenics, though, and I think one of the things I said it earlier, but like, it's the perfect example of being something bigger than yourself. By yourself, it's great, but that's what Sokol does. It brings people together for something bigger than them, and it gives you those values, the part of something that isn't just a movement, but it's just such a opportunity to be your best self, because you're around people who care about you. You're around people who want you to be better, and you're there to be better for other people as well and help them be better as much as you can.
Johnny B.B. Fran, I'm going to put you on a spot because I know you just love to talk. You also you were in Prague. What was your outlook on this whole entire calisthenics and Sokol sled?
Well, I mean, I was used to doing our sled, the American Sokol sleds. So my, experience with that, doing cal with maybe 100 people, 200 people at the most, and then going to Prague in 2018 and doing it with 1,500 people, 2,000 people. Yeah. It's incredible. And, you get out on that field, in that stadium, and you just look, and there are people everywhere.
Yeah.
And everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody knows what they're doing, knows where they're going. It's an incredible feeling.
And it's amazing to see those people up all the way, like 1,000 feet up in the stadium that are controlling everything, yelling at you guys.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah. We're the Americans out there, and they're all speaking Czech, and we don't know what they're saying. So we're looking around, but it's a pretty incredible feeling.
But I got back to you, John. I mean, what did Sokol? How did it change your life? I mean, your whole family's involved, and you're not even Czech.
Yeah, I mean,
did you have life outside of Sokol?
For a little bit, yeah. I mean, my family, we're a Polish family. The only reason we're in Sokol, my grandfather grew up across the street from, I believe it was Sokol, Chicago. My grandfather grew up on 25th and Troy. I think it was Sokol, Chicago. And his father used to send him across the street to pick up a pail of beer and bring it home.
Love that.
Of course.
When he moved to Berwyn with my grandma,
yeah,
they moved a couple blocks away from Sokol Tabor. And when my dad and my uncles were growing up, they signed him up. And then when me and my brothers, my cousins, we were all born, we turned 3 years old, maybe, potty trained age. They signed us up. And they're
right,
like,
a true Sokol gets potty trained at like 6 months. What are you talking
Well,
whenever,
you gotta get potty trained to join Sokol.
As soon as you're potty trained, you're joining.
Yep, exactly.
And, we've been part of Sokol ever since and, kind of moving up the ranks. Me, my 3 younger brothers, my cousins, we're all still members. It teaches you a lot, not only just fitness and, gymnastics or volleyball or whatever other fitness classes that you sign up for. It teaches you to be a true leader, and you take responsibility for things, you volunteer for things.
And accountability.
I got to tell you, it's sitting here with you guys just makes me so proud of being a Sokol. I mean, you guys hear about other organizations, stuff like that. There's no organization that that's put so much influence in my life as Sokol, and it's taught me to never to give up and always to keep moving forward. And Adam, you heard me say this 1,000 times. I'm so proud of you, and I look forward to working with you and whatever you may need to help out Sokol in our future. Guys, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to play. This is going to be a little bit extra long podcast, so my apologies.
Here we go with another Sokol March.
Here we go.
Thank you all for listening.
But while we're taking this break, guys, we're going to do a couple shots. So, guys, Nazdar. Hey guys, I hope you guys loved that song because I know I sure did. And Adam, you better say yes. Cause
Always love a Sokol March.
guys, there's nothing like listening to a good Sokol March and starting this all off with our next, after our break, with a good shot of Domací
Vaječný
Vaječný
koněk.
Koněk. So, na zdraví, guys.
Czech
Do
style.
oči.
Czech style.
Here we go.
And you guys should know that Teta Vera brought it in the mason jar.
Homemade.
Style.
Domací.
Homemade.
Homemade.
Well, it was new, and I didn't have time to put it into a fancy bottle. So.
That's good.
That's how you do it.
Oh, it's so good when it hits your lips. Okay, so back to you,
Sure.
Vera. Now I know. Listen, you wear lots, not just crowns, but you wear lots of hats, and you've done a lot. I mean, you are truly an inspiration. I mean, there's a couple people that I really look at as a hierarchy in the Czech community, or Sokol community, or just our local community, not just in politics, because you've done politics too. But what else? What other organizations are you involved with?
So I mentioned before that I started with the Czech school and UMS, and then as I got to roughly college age, I joined MCS as well. I was probably the first rule breaker who danced with both groups. So probably both looked at me like I was a spy.
Rebel.
Yes, no, I was more like a spy. But I danced with both, and I have to tell you that at that time of my life, I wore my kroj more than any of my clothes because I was at one time in 5 different dance groups.
Okay, but real quick,
Five.
What is a kroj? So
Kroj is the Czech folk costume, and my kroj of choice, it was the Kijovský.
Okay.
And I got a new one right around the same time as I became Miss CSA in the early 70s, so it's a very old kroj already, but it's still in good shape, and my daughter wears it now. But I was, at that time, I mean, there were so many, every organization had their own. CSA had a dance group, UMS, MCS, there was Klub Domov through the Catholic organizations, and there was a CSA dance group at the time.
Yeah, really? I didn't know that one.
Which actually Fred Kalla, you mentioned Carol Kalla, Fred had started that, and he brought in some of his Sokol kids. Some of them wanted to dance. He actually wanted to teach a dance for either an exhibition or a slet.
Sure.
And so he then brought the CSA and the Sokol group together. So we were involved in a lot of that. And with CSA, I grew into it. I became part of the leadership organization. Eventually, shortly after graduating from law school, right after I took the bar exam, I was elected to the vice presidency there, ran all the fraternal programs for 8 years as vice president, and then was elected president, which I did for 12 years. So I was the CEO.
Gosh.
So, it gave me wonderful opportunities. I actually got to use my mother tongue, and so it's been quite the ride.
So, Teta Vera, when do you sleep?
I don't. Well, actually, what happens is I just collapse, and then I sleep. I never have trouble falling asleep because I'm so exhausted. I've been told that means you have
Vera, real
sleep
quick,
disorder.
One thing that you're forgetting to tell people here that you're also a registered interpreter.
Yes, I am.
See, I know that.
Yes, so I'm registered with the state courts, and I also work for the federal courts. I translate documents. Actually, the consulate has been so generous. They recommend me all the time when people need their American documents translated into Czech when they want to get their Czech citizenship. Sometimes I want to say, okay, back off. Don't recommend me because I just, I do this part-time. During the day, I'm still working. I'm an old broad, but I'm still.
Age is just a number, just
right,
as Brother
exactly. But I'm in an elected position. I'm the Riverside Township Supervisor. So I do this evenings and weekends when I have them, when I'm not at a Sokol or CSA or some other function. So it's kind of, I do things in a busy way, but I love it, and I don't know what I would do if I didn't have all these organizations.
Well, she's also secretary of 2 CSA lodges. She's a member of Bohemian Lawyers. She's the secretary of the Czechoslovak American Congress.
Right.
And the educational director for Sokol Spirit.
And I'm the treasurer in my community for the Library Foundation.
That's right.
So
Holy smokes.
yeah,
you guys, throughout this podcast, we feel that people that volunteer and kind of do these things have like an access to a fountain of youth, right? Like talking to street ball talking to Taviera here, all these people, like, they give this all this time, right? All their time away.
It keeps you young.
And then it just makes you, right, relevant, right, in a way. But I have to say this in this podcast, we are actually working on a great seminar in person in 2023 that I'm hoping that maybe we can collaborate for the Czech community. It's all going to be about the living well, about power of attorney, about just making sure that everybody is taken care of, because we've been through a lot.
Some big losses here that people are not ready
in 2022. Yes, and just to make sure that things are taken care of and people are safe.
Well, maybe we could lean over to our sister over here, Vera, and just ask you to maybe we could be part of that special. We want to talk about living trust and living wills and power of attorney and stuff like that, so people understand the importance of all these things. So you're not caught off guard, which so many people our age that guys, it happens. But we're not going to talk about that now.
It is not for today. It is not to corner anyone. It is just something that we are going to work on hard for 2023. We are thinking February. It's going to be in person here in Chicagoland, but it's going to be online for all of you in U.S. But you have to be aware that, the law obviously vary by the state. Right. But anyway, it is a privilege to work with people that actually have this knowledge and that care about it.
Vera, are there any other organizations? Because we know how all of our organizations are. If you forget one, you're going to hear about it.
So I know. So I will say that Adam mentioned I'm secretary of the Czechoslovak American Congress, which, back in the mid-'70s when the United States was celebrating its bicentennial, we wanted to showcase that the Czechs were something there in the community too. And in those days, a lot of the organizations didn't get along. You've heard the story that, if you've got 2 Czechs, you've got 3 organizations because each has to be president of his own, and then there's one for them to cooperate in. Well, the CAC the Czechoslovak American Congress was formed first as the Czechoslovak Bicentennial Committee.
Okay.
Put on a big show at Morton West with every folk dancing group that existed.
Really?
Every singing group that existed, the drama clubs that existed, the CSA and other drill teams that existed. It was quite the show. And afterwards, they said, boy, we were able to cooperate on this. Let's form an organization so that when there's something that's too big for one of our organizations, there's an organization where we can cooperate. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't fall on anybody's shoulders alone. So, then that community has pulled together. Some of the organizations that were around then don't exist anymore. Many of them don't.
No, yeah.
So we're down to, but we have a number of CSA lodges, a number of suckle units that are members of the Congress. We have the Bohemian Odd Fellows organization. We have
the band,
the Czech American musicians. We have the Garden Club. There are so many organizations, and I'm sorry if I've forgotten the organization.
Society.
Right, the Genealogical Society. Thank you. There, every organization has a place at the table with the Congress. It was never intended to be its own entity per se, but a place where groups could work together. So we were the ones responsible for fixing up and relocating the Masaryk, the Blaník Knight statue, get it repaired. So we worked in cooperation with the state and the county and then the Czech organizations. Each of us brought in a third of those funds. We did the same thing with the Havlíček statue that's on the Midway, that's on the drive over by the museum complex. And we also, we raised funds when there were floods in 1997 in the Czech Republic. We raised another $30,000 that I took over there, and we helped to fund.
Did you take it in a briefcase?
No, no, but I had a big honking check, one of those big display checks. That that's a story unto itself because. Yeah,
we made our way onto Czech TV, and then we even found a distant relative in one of the towns because he recognized us from TV, not because we were relatives.
Right. He wasn't that distant a relative. He was kind of the black sheep, and so nobody told him I was coming to town. But we ran into him in a pub
with a briefcase full of money.
Yeah.
No, it was a check, and we, transferred funds, and we worked through a foundation there. But all of this is only to say that although we all have our own identity in these organizations, there are ways to work together, and there's no longer the animosity that maybe there was back in the day, because it used to be if you didn't like the way a club was running things, instead of fixing it from within, you formed your own club as a rival to it. And now we all coexist. There's just not as many of us, so even though there's newer waves all the time.
Sure.
There's always been a certain divide between the various immigrant waves. Each one came from different experiences. They came for different reasons. So it's no wonder, and there were different approaches to being in an organization in the old country when the different immigrants came. So it's no surprise that we don't always work in the same club, but we can coexist and cooperate.
Well, for sure. But, 2022, 2023, all these are going to be different in a way, because we have gone through all these things together. We have been through these things together. We have all these organizations. We kind of, do this. So we will link. We will try to link all the organizations from Teta Vera. I don't know if the bio can be that long.
No.
Adam, would you definitely, just in case anybody does want to reach out about Sokol, well, obviously you gave American Sokol's website out. But if you want to send us your personal email,
absolutely, yes. And also, we have a pretty strong social media presence that's starting to pick up again too. We have a YouTube page that we haven't used much, but we're going to start doing some more posts to that in the new year. So stay tuned. But a lot of the social media things, Facebook. I know that there's a few others too. Instagram. So again, you're going to see a lot more from the American Sokol coming up, and hopefully a new website in the not too distant future as well. So,
and Mr. President, let me be the first to invite you back. And so when you're ready to talk about the next sled or anything that you have, anything that is important that you want to get out, not to just to the U.S. but to the world. I mean, obviously you heard. Well, we got people listening to us in Egypt. I'm just blown away that people listen. People listen to us all over the world.
Yeah.
But guys, we're going to we're going to be wrapping this up right now, and we're going to go to the fun part.
Did you hear Teddy? You guys, did you just hear Teddy clap for himself? It's amazing.
No, that wasn't a clap. That was supposed to be a dong. A gong. I mean a gong, not a dog.
Was a dong for himself.
Okay, here we go, Johnny. So, guys, here we have the fun questions, and then we're going to roll this into our trivia. And if you guys get all the answers right with your trivia, you guys get to walk out of here with some wonderful gifts. So, now these questions are the fun questions. So, we're going to talk to you. We're going to start off with Mr. President.
Okay.
So are you or pivo na bovino kind of a guy?
No, pivo for sure, but I do enjoy vino every so often.
And what kind of pivo do you prefer?
I gotta say, I've definitely grown to love Pilsner, especially on tap, like Philip Station in Berwyn, best Pilsner.
Shout out.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to the Philip Station, but any of the Czech beers, Krušovice, and actually one of the ones I love that you can get around here, but most people don't talk about is Primator. That's actually the local beer from my mom's family town.
Primator.
Yeah, Primator. And that is from Nakod, and that was right by Hronov, which is where my mom's family is from. So that's one of my favorites, especially their dark beer. The Krušovice Dark is wonderful. And if I get to Prague, Gambrinus is really good, but you can't get it here, and it kills me.
I got a story about Primator real quick. So when I was studying in Czech Republic, and they took us all around, and they took us to a brewery one day for our cultural part. They took us to Primator, and we had the VIP, so we got to sample unlimited amount of pivo.
And they have a lot of different styles of
oh
beer,
my gosh!
Amazing, all of it.
Matter of fact, Martin, that was from Australia. Let me tell you something. We walked in walking, and we left
being carried out.
We left skipping and singing. We sampled every beer twice, and it went all the way up to like 32%. It was something ridiculous. It was something ridiculous.
So actually, we went to Runov to see my mom's family, and unfortunately, my sister and I and my wife, we do not speak Czech, and my mom did, and most of the group did not. And we ended up having all the group spoke Czech except us. So I ended up becoming friends with the bartender who had, at the time, my mom comes over, she goes, "What have you been talking about?" I'm like, "Oh, well, his daughter, she had moved to the States. She actually had come to Chicago. She was working at Kloss for a while." And my mom's like, "Wait." And she starts talking. She goes, "That's all right." I'm like, "Yeah, I get enough passing ability to figure all that out." But
the more people, the
Chicago
more
and
language
everything, yeah.
abilities.
It worked out really well, but it was great, and that was because of all of the varieties of Primator. Primator.
Miss Vera.
Yes.
Pivo nebo vino?
Vino v Americe. Vino when I'm here in America. I don't care for U.S. beers. I've never been a beer drinker except when I go to Checo. There it's like water. And my favorite one, I have to say, Kozel Dark.
But you know what?
Velko Popovitsky.
A ty víš, co je černé pivo je dobrý. What it's good for.
Well,
you just jumped up.
You guys got to look that up. I'm not going to say it on air.
Okay. No, but it's just so smooth. And at the last slet, my girlfriend, who is Polish, was there with me, and she had it on her first night in Prague, and she fell in love, and she was usually ordering that, so I drank it along with her, and
Kozel actually,
It's
couple
my
times,
husband's favorite.
it was won a couple of world awards for the best beer.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
You can buy it here too now.
Yeah. So now we're
Hold
going
on,
to keep.
Adam. Pivo nebo vino?
Here it is.
Pivo.
Yeah.
Pivo, always.
Primator.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
obviously, I know your answer on this one. Do we like polka, and do we like the polka dance?
of course.
Oh, I love you.
I mean, I danced with 5 different groups.
Oh,
So,
my kind of woman.
yes, I love to dance, and my knees and my ankles pay for it. I did a lot of stomping.
But you still do it.
I do.
God bless you.
Whenever I get the opportunity.
My kind of a gal. Mr. President.
Probably not as much as my mom, but I still polka. I did 8 years of Moravian dance. Actually, also danced for UMS and MCS in my childhood. Got more involved in the Sokol side of things as I got older, but we'll still love the polka. And actually, I still make sure my mom always has a partner for the a mazurka whenever it comes on, because that was the one dance my dad danced. He actually made sure that I learned how to polka solely because he couldn't, and he always regretted that he couldn't dance. So
That's one of the things that no matter where I go, and my mom's there, and there's a polka playing, no matter who I'm with, I always give the first dance to my mom, and it's my most.
Bobby deserves it.
Of course.
Come on.
So, okay, guys, we're coming up to our. Go ahead, John.
Oh, trivia.
We all know what will happen if you don't give her the first dance.
No, so I crush your head like. I break you like chicken bone.
Bring down the trivia. Come on.
My mom.
You had stuff written down. Come on.
Real quick, I brought this up when we had my mom here, but I never knew my mom had an accent.
I remember hearing that.
I never knew my mom had an accent until I was 14 years old. Honest to God. And now it's like, I love it. I really love it. So, brother and sister, do we all drink? Do we all love Becker?
Of course.
Becher.
Becker.
That's right, and that's why I brought the cordial.
You guys should have seen what Adam brought. It's called cordial. Cordial. Jemný likér s extraktem lipového květu. I have to say we have never had this Becher here, and Mr. Becher, we are actually super thankful for your sponsorship.
We're looking for a sponsor.
This extract lipového kvitu is amazing. Also, lemon is not bad.
Yeah, lemon is great.
But
That's my
this
favorite.
is something.
wife's favorite, at
Karlovarský cordial. It is amazing, and thank you so much for sharing with us.
course.
It
Speaking
is
about
special.
shots, Nazdraví to our guest. Here we go.
Cheers.
And now we're going to start off with our trivia. So here we go.
Oh, trivia.
And Johnny, I got to tell you. There we go. Hey.
Gotta love technology.
Yes, 10-second.
Billy. Oh, thank you so much. So,
Jeopardy.
the country that has the biggest per capita for drinking is which country?
Well, for beer.
Well,
For beer.
and I will say, what is the Czech Republic? And I have to throw that in that my wife is part Irish, and we beat Ireland every time. So.
All the time. By like 30 or 40 liters.
She also has a lot of German, and we beat them
Yep,
up.
we do.
But for the $1,000 question, or I should actually say the 1,000 crown question.
That I can afford.
What year? What year was beer made in Bohemia?
Well,
And
Well, I know Pilsner was.
it's a long time ago, guys.
What,
Before my time.
Pilsner started in 1842 on my birthday.
much
Yeah.
longer.
but yeah,
Well, way
I
before
would say
that, but-
probably under Karol should
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
Oh,
sometimes.
1500s.
993.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing. Wow.
So let's say 900. We are in the 2022. We are celebrating
Yeah.
big, right?
And
some good
Many
trivia.
years.
in what country and who, or is it what country or who, or which noble person invented nanofibers?
Oh, I'm sure the Czechs.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, we've always been way ahead in technology,
Yes.
The word robot.
But did you?
know.
But yeah, you're correct. And I don't know if you got that from one of our very first trivia ones,
No,
but that
I've
we.
known it for a while.
Oh, I love you.
I'm old.
But it came from the University in Liberec.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So this one's a fun one. This one's an easy one. Oh, should be an easy one, especially for you, Vera. The Czech Republic is divided in 3 regions. In which regions are the Czech Republic?
Czechia or Bohemia, Moravia, and used to be Slovakia, in Czechoslovakia.
Right.
But there were other
Yes.
parts. There was Silesia, there was Podkarpatska Rus, all that kind of thing
Bingo,
under
yes.
Czechoslovakia.
Silesia.
But so Slovakia is separate now, but yes, we still have to count Silesia.
That's right.
And she gets the round of applause. She got it. So
Yeah.
so wonderful, guys, brothers and sisters. I really love you guys. Thank you very much for being part of our CCACC podcast, guys. I know we always bring like really powerful people from our community here. Anybody that's listening that wants to be on our it's a Sokol that's across the nation. Adam, please
Absolutely.
help us out getting some people to call in and stuff like that. Eventually, we'd like to take this on a tour when we build up some kind of capital here. But we're working on that. Ratka, take it away.
Or if you have a suggestions who we should have here in the studio or online over the phone with us on the podcast, we would love to hear your suggestions. So please send us a PM, your private message, or an email, and let us know. Also, please remember to rate our podcast 5 stars and let us know in the comments. You guys, in this moment,
Hold on.
that Vera brought out of her
We're not
little
stopping
teeny
right
tiny
now.
purse. Teddy, tell me right now. It's a cutout
This
of
is
her
awesome.
picture
Yeah, we're not stopping the show right now. Hold on.
being a hobby queen. Is that correct?
No, that's Miss CSA.
Miss CSA queen,
is
all
awesome.
full out in the costume. So you guys will see a picture of this cutout.
That's a beautiful Kroj.
in the links of the show. Oh my gosh, she is gorgeous and like a baby. 80, right? And so just please remember, we are very thankful for your ratings, rate us 5 stars for a chance to be to get a shout out of a fan of the week. And thank you for listening.
Well, hold on. She pulled that out of her bag. Is there anything else in the bag that you might want to show us?
I had some pictures and books, but if you want to put anything on afterwards.
And if you want to like relive like my mom's family leaving Czechoslovakia back in the day, just watch the last few minutes of Sound of Music. It's kind of like that, just going over the hills to freedom.
Yeah, right.
Guys, just to let you guys know, as you did such a great job with our trivia, yes, we have those over here. You guys get shot glasses made out of candy canes. So yes.
Yum.
So don't think that you came here and walk away with nothing. So
Thank you.
And I know this is not a crown that is made out of crystal, but this is a beautiful crown for you.
Wonderful.
Because you are the first queen for Hobie Days.
Glow in the dark.
But you just got to pull the tab out and it'll all light up. And Mr. President,
It went straight to her head.
You got a beautiful, sparkly Christmas necklace.
Thank you.
So there you go, guys.
So bring the whole outfit.
Radka, Johnny, thank you very much for always doing what you do over there. And to our guests, I really appreciate you guys coming in and talking about the history and, explaining what you guys do. This is what it's all about. To all of our listeners across the U.S. and across the world, thank you very much. And please remember to be kind to one another. Say a hello, because we don't know how powerful hello is, and you might change someone's life. And once again, I will explain that story to you guys another time. But a hello goes a very far away. And I love it. I love everybody, and thank you very much. And nazdar.
Thank you.
Nashledanou, dobrou noc, děkujeme.
Star.
Good night.
Nazdar.
Zdar.